Hey, what up, everybody? My name is Kalen. I am the host of Corner Culture, Thoughts Off the Mainstream, coming at you today from Georgia, central Georgia, tiny little podunk town. I'm not going to name it just in case reasons. This is my second podcast coming out from Georgia. If you saw my first one, I was able to get it out about a week and a half after I got here. Right now, this is about 2.5 weeks after being here, so I'm feeling a bit more settled, still getting used to some things here and there, but otherwise feeling pretty good. I'm liking the apartment, despite the little characteristics, interesting, unique things going on about it, and just finished my second week at the new job out here in Georgia, which I talked about in my previous video. So speaking of which, what I'm doing today is I'm bringing you some more stories from that experience, from the Bitcoin stories from the perspective of a Bitcoin Maxi series, and then some just random stuff that I've been thinking about throughout the week. You know, I've been reading an audiobook, listening to an audiobook, Democracy, the God That Failed. Very good book. Last week I just finished Sovereign Individual. If you have not read Sovereign Individual, you absolutely must read that book. It is incredible. And what's most amazing about that book to me is it predicted Bitcoin. It predicted it. The book was written in like 1995 by a group of people, and they predicted it. They even mentioned asymmetric cryptography being the method by which they would be able to sidestep in fiat money, government oppressive monopoly money, and operate peer to peer. That was just one like small segment of the book. The rest of it, just all of it, is mind blowing. And they predicted many other things as well. They predicted just tons and tons of stuff. The more I listened to that book, I was just like, wow, these people know what they're talking about. I felt like I was getting some secret insider information, like Bilderberg type stuff, where they're like, they know how the world's going to go. They know how everything's going to react to everything they do. But obviously it's not written by Bilderberg or any other secret organization like that. All right, anyway, so first up on the docket from the Bitcoin stories, from the perspective of a Bitcoin Maxi, is a story from a conversation I had with the same guy I mentioned in the previous video. He's a bit more like crypto friendly. He's very Bitcoin friendly. Obviously, he's working at the same mining tech job that I am, but he's very like pro Ethereum, pro smart contracts, pro functionality, and all these typical buzzwords I remember hearing when I was into crypto. And so we got into a little discussion there. I'm going to share that story, and then I'm going to share another story about some work that I had to do a couple days ago. How freaking terrible it was. I mean, it was bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I still did it, and I didn't complain or anything, but it was bad, and I had to remind myself why I'm doing this. I'll share that story. And then I want to share another story about just sort of the realization I had about the fact that people are on something of a drunk from fiat. And what I mean by that is that in the drunk, they have no consequences when it comes to financial responsibility, because money is handled by the government and or the banks and central banks, and if not, or private banks. Like, so it creates a drunk, and I'm gonna get into that, and then I'm gonna go a little political. I'm gonna talk about my views on climatism and nuclear energy. I have some thoughts on that, and then finally, this is another conversation that came from my buddy over at the job site, talking about staking, and we had a conversation there, and then I thought about it afterwards, and I have some more things I want to say on that as well. I'm that kind of person where like a million thoughts race into my head whenever I'm having conversations with people, especially if we don't agree, and they're bringing up stuff that I haven't heard before, that I haven't considered before. I always ruminate on it later, and then I come up with the responses I wish I had been able to think of or say in the moment, which is never the case. I'm not that bright. I'm not that fast. I'm not that clever, and I'm not that witty. So it takes me a long time. I remember one time I was sitting in the shower, and I remembered something that happened to me like in middle school, and I was like, I should have said that, and I was like a grown 30-plus-year-old man. I was just like, God, how pathetic am I? I actually thought of a comeback 30 years after the fact. That's how lame I am. So anyway, okay, let's get into story number 1. But before we do, cheers, skål, kampai, prost, and every other cheers equivalent in every other language. Salud. Also, by the way, if you like this shirt that I'm wearing, if you think that's cool, or if you like any of these designs in the background here, please visit my store and pick something up. Like I said before, prices are so cheap, I'm not even making any money. I just want to push some product out there and see what kind of designs people like. So if you don't buy anything, at least send me a message after looking through the site and tell me what designs you think are cool and what design you think suck. Please let me know. COSATOSHI.shop. And buy a BLOCKSTREAM JADE. Buy it from my website. You can actually get it cheaper on my website than you can on the BLOCKSTREAM website, and it'll still get shipped from BLOCKSTREAM. It'll get shipped direct from them. It won't, it won't be handled by a third party like me or somebody. It'll come straight from BLOCKSTREAM. But if you buy it through my shop, you get it cheaper because I don't charge for shipping. So anyway, first story: Bitcoin versus crypto. So in discussion with my friend, he asked me, like, what do you think about crypto? And I was like, well, I'm not a fan of crypto anymore. I was a crypto bro, and now I'm a Bitcoin Maxi. I don't care about crypto. He's like, but when you say crypto, do you include Bitcoin? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, but Bitcoin's a cryptocurrency, therefore it's crypto. And I'm like, no, no, it's not. I mean, yes, you are correct theoretically. You are correct grammatically, but you are wrong empirically. You are wrong in the real world. And so I didn't think of this then, but I did sort of make that argument in dumber words. But what I thought about later was something I learned about the word octopus. And so to my buddy out there, what is the plural of octopus? Most people are going to go, well, it's octopi. Some people might go, well, it's octopuses or octopussies, which wouldn't make sense, or just really sounds bad. Nobody will ever say the correct answer because theoretically, the correct answer is octopody because octopus is a Greek word, not a Latin word. When you add the I, like octopi, you do that with Latin words. Octopus isn't Latin, it's Greek. And the way Greek words are pluralized is the opody, or it looks like opode, so it would be octopody. That's the theoretically correct way to pluralize octopus. Yet not a single human being speaking the English language ever says octopody, referring to plural of octopus. No one says that. Therefore, the correct answer is octopi or octopuses, because that's what we use. That language is a means of communication. It's a medium of communication. So whatever people use and they know what they mean or the other person means when they communicate, then that is the correct answer. Doesn't matter whether it's theoretically correct or not. And here's what I realized. You have the empirical, and you have the theoretical. So when it comes to language, and I'm not an expert, this is just something I'm observing here. When it comes to language, you can be theoretically correct and empirically correct, and therefore ultimately correct. You can be empirically correct and theoretically incorrect, but still overall correct, because the empirical part is more important than the theoretical. So if you're theoretically wrong, theoretically correct, but empirically wrong, then you are wrong. It doesn't matter how correct you are on the theory. It just doesn't matter. If people use the words a certain way, no matter how wrong it is theoretically or academically or intellectually, whatever, if it's actually used and the communication succeeds through the use of the incorrect, then it is correct. Period. So, and here's the thing about Bitcoin and crypto. So I'm gonna two-part this one, because the first part is anecdotal, which I understand. Anecdotes are anecdotes. That's what they are. But then I'm also going to broad stroke it as well. I'm going to apply my anecdote to the greater masses, which then ties back to my original argument that if it's empirically correct, it is correct. And that is, when I was first getting into crypto, I was a crypto bro. I did not like Bitcoin. I didn't understand it. It was intimidating. It seemed standoffish, if that's even a way you can put it. I just didn't like it, okay? Didn't like it. So, whenever I said crypto, in my mind and on Twitter and in discussions with people, when I said crypto, I was not including Bitcoin in my mind. And I am 100% sure that the majority of crypto bros out there that are saying crypto in colloquial discussions are not including Bitcoin. In fact, when I did start getting into Bitcoin, and I was still very crypto friendly, I would actually say crypto and Bitcoin. And this was before I even heard the thing about, Bitcoiners saying that crypto is crow, or crypto is shit coins or whatever. Even then, I was saying crypto and Bitcoin. Even then, when I said crypto, it was not an umbrella for Bitcoin, or it didn't include Bitcoin under the umbrella, and I had to specifically include it whenever I said crypto. And if I wanted to, and then if I didn't, then I wouldn't, and I would just say crypto, and that would exclude Bitcoin in my mind. So that's one thing. And then, like I said, I've noticed that other people do the same thing. And when they are talking about Bitcoin, or crypto, my light just died. When they're talking about crypto, they're not including Bitcoin. They're just not. And and this is the thing. And it's because of the ethos of these two ideas. Okay, crypto wants to get rich, Bitcoin wants to get rich, but there's a huge difference. Crypto wants to get rich right now. Crypto wants to get rich immediately, so they invest in all these absolute coins and these other stupid things like staking and liquidity pools and all this other garbage. To try and get rich now, and then they end up getting rugged, and they end up losing money, and then they end up resenting crypto, and maybe Bitcoin too. But in Bitcoin, they are willing to wait. It's like, yeah, they want to get rich too, but they are getting rich over time because they understand the fundamentals, the importance, or the fundamentals of money, and they understand that Bitcoin is a solution to a problem and not a solution looking for a problem. Okay, Bitcoin was invented to solve the problem of fiat oppression, worldwide destruction, infinite wars, infinite death, infinite poverty, and an unending devaluation of your savings. Bitcoin was designed and created and invented and given to the world to fix that. What does crypto fix? Nothing. It doesn't fix anything. It doesn't solve anything. It doesn't bring any utility that's even remotely as important or functional or utilitarian as Bitcoin, fixing the fucking money. And so, like, getting into these discussions where people are like, "Oh, crypto, this and this," and that. I'm just like, "Yeah, I've been there. I get you. I went through it too. I invested in some shit coins and got fucking rugged, Been there, done that, and I've also noticed it, and a lot of people talk about this, especially Bitcoiners. It seems to be that a lot of us have all gone through that as well. We have all gone through the crypto, and then found ourselves with Bitcoin. That happens with a lot of people. So it's really interesting talking to somebody that's still, exactly where I was, not less than a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago. I really went full Bitcoin only early this year. So I was well on my way because I was starting to read and I was starting to understand and I was starting to invest. And it's true, man. The percentage of your portfolio that is in Bitcoin is directly correlated to your understanding of Bitcoin. It is true, unequivocally true. So anyway, that is my first Bitcoin story from the perspective of a Bitcoin Maxi. Before I go on to my next story, I am going to turn off the goddamn air conditioner. So the air conditioner in this apartment is not wired up correctly. It's central air, and there's a giant AC compressor outside, which works magnificently. However, it's supposed to be automatic so that it just maintains the temperature all day. But whoever wired up the AC probably did a lot of other work in this house, given what I've seen, and didn't wire it up correctly. And so it doesn't automatically turn off the AC. It turned off the fan whenever it hits the temperature. So if you have the fan on, which I prefer the air to get circulated and run through the filter constantly, then the air conditioner is on all the time. It never turns off. And so I have to manually switch it on and off. And if I set it on automatic, the fan turns off, but the AC doesn't. So the AC is on even though the air is not circulating in the apartment. So it's like, what? But the air is not going anywhere. So I'm just wasting electricity. It's so but I got to fix that. I got to reverse the doors on the refrigerator because they open into a wall. It's like, yeah, cool. That's great. That's really helpful. Anyway, this apartment is weird. All right, next story. So on the Bitcoin mining job site, I am, as I explained in a previous video, mostly we're working directly with the miners. We're fixing them, swapping them, repairing them, diagnosing them, blah, blah, blah. Uptime, hash rate, that's the name of the game. We got to mine that Bitcoin. But then there's other times when it's like, hey, we need this thing cleaned over here because due to some of the geographical circumstances here in Georgia, there's a lot of magnesium in the dirt. And when magnesium gets heated, and during the summer, and it's in the dust and in the air flying through these containers that are circulating a lot of air, it builds up. And when it builds up to a certain point, it actually causes a lot of electronics to malfunction, like the switches, which are very important. If you can mine at a billion hashes a second. Doesn't matter if your internet ain't working. If your IP switch ain't working and you're not connected to the pool, that hash is completely wasted. That electricity is completely wasted. So switches are very, very important. And so this magnesium apparently causes switches to go down, not to mention other things too. So one of the buildings had to get turned off for a transformer repair. So while it was off, they were like, "Hey, this is an opportunity for us to get in there and clean up this." Wash off this magnesium from the walls. It is grueling work, and where this magnesium builds up specifically in these buildings is a very tight fit, extremely tight fit. It's really hard to move around, and you got to get in there and start spraying, scrubbing, wiping, spray, scrub some more, wipe some more. And you got to keep doing this until the whole wall and all the intricate little surfaces and all the stuff in there is clean. And so I basically spent a whole day doing that. I had a N95 mask on because we were spraying a bunch of chemicals, and not to mention this magnesium is in the air when you're wiping it and scrubbing it. And it is just brutal. I got done that day, and my pants were red. Normally they were blue. They're work jeans. They were red after this, and I went home and just felt like I had literally been in a mine, or something. And what was funny though was at some point I remember scrubbing something, and it was just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What the hell? I mean, I just moved out to Georgia, upended my life, moved out to Georgia, a state I'd never been, for a company I've never worked for before, and I'm doing this, and I was like, I'm doing this for Bitcoin. No, that's why I'm doing this. I am doing this for Bitcoin, and it's fine, and it's good, and it's gonna be great. I had to talk myself into the work about halfway through it. I was getting really kind of fed up with it, and then I talked myself into it, and then I made it all the way to the end. I was like, yeah, this is for Bitcoin. Yeah. This is for Bitcoin, baby. This is the sacrifices I make. And then I thought about making a video about it. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make a video about this. How I'm doing this grueling, relentless, dirty work for Bitcoin. That's how dedicated I am to this. So anyway, that's my other short little story. Okay, so now on to the other kind of big story or big topic, responsibility. So I mentioned in a reel I made a while back, or actually no, I think it was a video, a regular video, and I mentioned the Drunk of Fiat. And somebody asked me like, hey, you should probably, kind of slow down and explain some of these things a little more clearly because I don't know what you mean by Drunk of Fiat, and I don't think most people do. And I was like, you know what, you're right. Probably most people do not just know what that means if somebody mentioned it in casual conversation. So I'm going to break it down. What is the Drunk of Fiat? So as you may or may not know, in the creation of the US dollar, on its way to being a fiat currency, taking us away from hard money, gold, which was very hard money, they had to confiscate everybody's gold and then sell it back to them at a higher price. Probably one of the most unconstitutional, immoral things, disgusting things that's ever happened in the history of the United States because of what it's led to and what it has enabled, if you look at the downwind effects of all of it. So, but there is a trade-off. Okay, when you have hard money, it's on you. All right, Bitcoin's a hard money. Gold's a hard money. Silver's a hard money. But if you are in possession of it, it is your responsibility to stay in possession of it and prevent anyone else from possessing it from you by acts of violence, force, coercion, etc. This is not really the case with fiat. With fiat, it's kind of really hard to steal it from somebody. Because nobody keeps it in a briefcase under their bed. Because the responsibility on the individual to protect that money has been kind of lifted or externalized into other apparatuses, particularly the banks, which are by the way, all banks are extensions of the central bank. So individuals in this country have become accustomed to the drunk of fiat. That's what I mean by the drunk. It's a lack of responsibility. It's a lack of consequences or having to deal with the consequences of not having a hard money. And they become drunk on this. And so the process of switching back to a hard money from fiat is going to be a lot like a hangover. It's going to be a lot like sobering up and dealing with the crushing headache from drinking, 20 ounces of love spirits a day for 100 years or more. Now I think we're at like 110 years, something like that. So that's going to be one hell of a cumulative hangover that's likely to kill a lot of people because now, oh my God, I'm got to be responsible for my money. And I don't know the first thing about Bitcoin. I don't know the first thing about blockchain. I don't know the first thing about cryptography. I don't know what a key is. I don't know what a seed phrase is. Where is my Bitcoin anyway? It's going to be one hell of a hangover for this country when the dollar does ultimately collapse and Bitcoin is there to save everybody, but nobody knows how to do a thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm building this business, my COSATOSHI store. Because what I want to do is, number one, educate, elucidate, and I want to give people an on-ramp to Bitcoin so that they can at least know how it works and how to use it before everything topples down and before the debt spirals out of control and just absolutely obliterates the dollar, and not only the dollar, but every other fiat, which is essentially layer 2 tokens on top of the dollar all across the world. It's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. Before the dollar, it was the British pound, and before the British pound, it was the Danish yank or whatever the hell it was called. I don't even know. And so empires fall, and we are clearly on the decline. It's just so obvious, So that's what I mean by the drunk of fiat, and that's what I mean about the trade-off of the responsibility between fiat and hard money. You do not with hard money. If let's talk about Bitcoin. If somebody takes your Bitcoin or steals it, you're done. there's nothing you can do to get it back except ask and beg to have it back. And are you going to put your faith in that one? I'm not. So I'm not going to I'm going to make sure that nobody can steal my shit. And that's why I've spent so much time and energy in researching these things, learning about these things, not only for me, but for you too, because I want you to be able to do the same thing. And that's why I'm building this business. But you gotta take the time. You have to make up for the lack of public education, which is a state government apparatus that wants you to be ignorant on the issue of money, wants you to not understand that your acquiescence into fiat currency is what is funding infinite war and death all over the world, and making all the insiders that are close to the faucet, the money faucet, rich, while everybody else pays the price. They all pay the price of having higher prices, but not getting to have any of that money fresh off the faucet. And so, public education. There, I said it. Public education. Okay, anyway, enough of that. While we're on a little bit of a political tone, though, I'm going to talk about climatism and nuclear. And all I really wanted to say was, actually, there's something I want to bring up. I forgot to bring this up before, so let me pull this up right now. So what I want to talk about on this next one is about climatism, and specifically I want to talk about nuclear. So I saw this graphic. I haven't fact-checked it yet, but it makes a lot of sense. So even if the numbers are like widely off, I believe that this is very likely to be true. So I'm gonna share this graphic with you because I think we are spot on here. Sorry, wrong screen. Okay, so look at this. How many hours a 100-watt light bulb can run off of 1 kilogram of various fuels? Wood is 1.2 days. Coal is 3.8 days. Oil is 4.8 days. And nuclear is 25,700 years. 25,000 years. 1 kilogram. And what is the byproduct of nuclear energy as far as the air is concerned? Water. It's water. Dihydrogen monoxide. That's what goes into the air. Not a single pollutant goes into the atmosphere. Yes, there's nuclear waste. We got to deal with nuclear waste. Yes, there are meltdowns. We have to be prepared and we have to deal with the potential of meltdowns. Yes, this is all true. But if you are a climate alarmist and you're going to tell me that we got to stop burning coal because we're polluting the atmosphere, if you're an alarmist about CO2, and if you are not also equally or more screaming at the top of your lungs to implement nuclear power, I cannot take you seriously. I cannot take a single fucking thing that you say seriously at all. At all. If you want people to be rich and you want them to climb out of poverty, they need to have electricity. This is not debatable. This is not a discussion. This is a fact. This is the fact we all fucking know. And if you are not going to, so if you're going to say we got to stop burning coal, but you're not going to replace it with something that is actually scalable, like nuclear, because by the way, solar and wind and water and the rest of it is not scalable, and by the way, requires copious amounts of coal and petroleum in order to take place in the first place, and creates a shit ton of waste as well. If you're not screaming about nuclear, then shut the up. Get out. Like it's clear that you are a bad faith actor. You are not serious about actually solving the problem. You just want to complain. You want to destroy and you want to gobble up power in the process, or give it to somebody else like the state, so that they can continue to tax us to death, reduce our energy capabilities, and not replace it with something that actually benefits humanity and raises people out of poverty or up from the middle class into the upper class. So if you're not pro-nuclear, but you're concerned about the atmosphere, you better be pro-nuclear. And if you're not, you shut the up and don't talk to me about this topic. Okay, I need a drink. All right, moving on to my last one for the night. Got a short list of stories here today. Not much else to really talk about. Not much else really happened. My life is boring. What can I say? So, is staking fair? Some of you might be saying, what the hell is staking anyway? Well, oh, you know what? Hang on. I should probably switch back over here first. Before. Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay. So this next topic I'm going to talk about is about staking. Is staking fair? You might be thinking, what the hell is staking? What are you talking about? Well, if you have watched anything that I've put out there, you know that Bitcoin is a proof of work coin. That means that in order to solve a block, you have to deploy hardware that solves a very difficult mathematical problem. And when it does, it then earns a reward for solving that block in the form of Bitcoin. And so that's what mining is all about. It's just deploying thousands of specialized computers that are good at solving this mathematical problem and deploying them into to make money, to earn Bitcoin. So that's work. Okay, what is required in order to do this? Well, you must buy the machine. You must have equipment. Number two, you must have electricity. You must have access to electricity so that you can run the machine. So this is work. Okay, this is no different than gold. All right, in order for gold to be produced, somebody has to locate it. They have to survey the land, figure out where it might be, go do some testing, confirm that it is there, make guesstimates on how much is there, do some math and do some projections, and we think, well, this is how much gold is there. Here's the current price of gold right now. So if we deploy X dollars into digging up the gold, we can earn Y dollars and therefore have a profit of Z. So that is work. That is what is required to create any other currency in the world except fiat, except proof of stake. Proof of stake is the same thing as I just described with Bitcoin mining, but instead of solving a difficult mathematical problem, work, you just need to hold a bunch of the coin already. So do you not see how this is already disadvantageous for most people? It's like, okay. And by the way, proof of staking rewards those who hold more money. So the more you have, the more you generate. It's literally just it's finance. It's global finance with the veneer of blockchain and cryptography. It's garbage. It's unfair. And by the way, and let's talk about Ethereum specifically. Okay, I know there's an F ton of proof of stakes out there, but there's really only two networks in my mind. There's Bitcoin and there's Ethereum, and then the rest of it's just never going to make it, never going to do anything. Except maybe Polygon. That's my only other exception, maybe. But I could be wrong. Hey, I can't predict the future. Who knows what's going to happen? But proof of stake just advantages those who already have, that already have a ton. All right. And so in the case of Ethereum, you have a coin who started off as proof of work, but had an ICO. Okay, and that stands for initial coin offering. Okay, that's kind of like a before a stock goes public, you got a bunch of VC venture capital insiders who get to buy up a bunch of stock or ownership of the company at very ridiculously discounted rates, so that when the company does go public, they are given shares equivalent to their early contributions. This is like that. That's what an ICO is, and that's what proof of stake is. It's just a public forward-facing version of that. So anyone could spin up an Ethereum node and stake Ethereum and start earning on it. But you know what the minimum requirement is to stake Ethereum on a node? It's 32 ETH. 32, and they're talking about raising it. How much is 32 Ethereum right now? Right now. Okay, we're not talking bull market. We're in a bear market. How much is 32 ETH? It's $54,000 at today's price. People were spinning up nodes back in the summer of 2021 when Ethereum was like $4,000 or $5,000. Right now it's only $1,600, so $1,700. So you got to have $54,000 just to spin up one node. And I learned from my buddy at the job site that he's earning 0.1 Ethereum a year. Dude, when I was mining Ethereum, I was making 0.1 ETH a week. Or actually, I think it was a month. Sorry. I think it was 0.1 in the height. I think it was 0.1 ETH per month. But he's making 0.1 ETH a year, is what he said. What's the point? What's the point? It's just you're playing with a bunch of stupid toys that have been invented by bros that are just trying to get rich and rug your ass, when they get the first opportunity to do so. It makes no sense. And here's the other problem I have with staking, proof of stake. All you're doing is giving government state development. You're just giving them the mechanism to quickly develop and implement a CBDC. And there's a lot of speculation from a lot of people. I don't know if I buy it, but a lot of speculation from people that Ethereum, the USDT, and other things like that will actually be utilized in the implementation of a CBDC in the United States. So, it's just look, there's an answer. It was the first answer. It was deliberate. It was on purpose. It was as if it was the second coming of Christ because it was that perfect and that immaculate of a conception. It's Bitcoin. It solves everything that is needed to be solved, and it doesn't add a bunch of garbage on top of that to make a bunch of techno crypto bros happy because it adds utilities for their projects. Like, that shit. This is too important for us to up. It's too important for us to up and screw up the consensus algorithm or make it unfair for people, especially in struggling parts of the world, like Africa, one of the most rapidly adopting Bitcoin countries in the world, or continents in the world. We can't this up. So it's like, we got to stop this. And by the way, on this topic, I wanted to actually pull up this website. It's called Ultrasound Money. This is a site that's been tracking what Ethereum has been doing ever since the merge. I think ever since the merge. I don't think it's been any earlier than that. Maybe it was earlier than that, or maybe it is now. So as you can see, right now Ethereum is actually inflating over the last 30 days. Okay, this is just over the last 30 days, but it is inflating right now, and the inflation rate is low. But the thing about this is that you cannot predict whether or not Ethereum's supply rate's going up or going down. And I'll prove it. Ready? So this is 30 days. Now this is 380 days. So we went from up 0.22% to being down 0.22% in 380 days. And as you can see, this is the path that is taken in that time. This is the merge. So this is when Ethereum went proof of stake from proof of work and kicked everybody, including me, off of the network from mining it. And as you can see, in the early days after the merge, it was going up. And so I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, okay, so it's still inflationary, just less so. But then it actually went like full deflationary here, and it was like, oh, okay, wow, that's pretty steep. This was just a few months ago, back in May. Not sure what was causing that. Was there an NFT project out there? I don't know. But then as you can see, it bottomed out, and now we're on the uptick again. So it's just like, it's unpredictable. It's just fiat. It's fiat with blockchain veneer on it. That's all it is. It's the dollar in blockchain form, made by some guy that carries fuzzy dinosaur purses around with him and rolls his pants up to his knees and snorts like a 21-year-old college kid. You know what I mean? Just like this is what you're excited about. This is a joke. This is a joke. Although I do have to say, whoever made this website, this is slick. This is a slick website. I gotta say, this is dope. It's not as cool as MemSpace, but it's still pretty cool. Like, this is the Ethereum's equivalent of MemSpace. It's a great little website. I have to say, whoever made this, like, kudos. Good job. It looks amazing. Oh, and let's go back even further, I think. Yeah, that's right. You can go back further now. So you can see the inflation rate was pretty steep here from, I think this is EIP 1559 right here. So this is when they started burning ETH to slow down the growth, but it didn't really slow it that much. And then, so, okay, 5 minutes. Yeah, okay. So that's it. That's all we got. But so, yeah. And by the way, you can simulate proof of work. This is kind of cool. So you can see what the difference would be. So the blue line here is where it's at now. And this is where it would be if it had never gone to proof of stake and it stayed on proof of work. So you can see the inflation is like 3.5%, 3%. So yeah, it's definitely a big change in terms of its tokenomics, but it's not a hard schedule. It's a flexible schedule. It depends on a bunch of various economic factors and drivers. Bitcoin does not. Bitcoin is like, we're minting this much every 4 years, period, end of story, until 2140, and then there will be no more. And you can't change it. You'll never change it. It will never be different. You can predict the inflation of Bitcoin, or lack thereof, all the way to infinity. And it will never change. It'll never change at all. So there you go. That's my thoughts and feelings about proof of stake. Oh, and there's one last thing I forgot to mention. 51% attack. Proof of work cannot be attacked by a nation state. Bitcoin cannot be taken over by a nation state. I don't even think an alien civilization could take over Bitcoin. But this proof of stake stuff, I could totally see how they'd be able to do that. In the dark of night, or in some remote data center that's being built in the middle of Nevada, they just spin up a F ton of Ethereum tokens, or spin up a bunch of Ethereum nodes on a bunch of VMs running on massive beefy servers, and they just slowly accumulate Ethereum during a bear market like now, just slowly buying it up, and then one day just deploy, I don't know, just whatever half of the Ethereum supply is. What is that, 60 million tokens? And because it's fiat, because it's dollars, and they can be printed out of thin air, they can just buy as much as they want. And then they can spin up all the nodes they want. There's no limit to how much money they can spend, how much fiat money they can spend to pull off a 51% attack. And they're not limited by anything on this. They're not limited by silicon. They're not limited by energy. Okay? With Bitcoin, it's impossible because there's not enough electricity in the world for a government to do this. There's not enough silicon in the world, or in the universe, for somebody to do this. Okay, it's impossible. But with this, it's easy. Ethereum could be completely and totally hijacked by the United States government, by China, by Russia. They could do it. Any fiat currency out there could do it if they had the resources, which most of them do. Because all you need is you just need some computers, you need some servers, and you can spin up 1,000 VMs on a single computer. If it's a beefy ass, server style computer, and then boom, you're done. So I don't like proof of stake. To me, it just feels like it's global finance with the veneer of blockchain. It's the same decrepit system implementing a new technology, trying to make it look all cool and flashy and stuff. And it's just like, this is stupid. We got Bitcoin. We got what we need. I've just decided that I want to go over mempool.space. This is the Bitcoin dashboard, if you will. Somebody made this. I forget the guy's name. I follow him on Twitter. Anyway, he made this site that it's basically a Bitcoin dashboard. It shows you everything you need to know in real time and all the way back to the beginning of Bitcoin. Everything that's going on with it. So here are the blocks. So on the right here, these are blocks that have been mined. They have transactions in them. They are final. There is no turning back from whatever transactions have occurred in these blocks. There's no reversing it. They are locked in perpetuity. The ones to the left are green. These are pending. So these are transactions that people have submitted requesting miners to add their transactions into the next block that gets mined. And so all the miners in the world have what's called a template, and it is basically just, here, I'll show you. I'm going to click on next block right here. So this is the next block. And as you can see, there are these smaller blocks in there that have various sizes. The size depends on the data required to submit the transaction. So obviously, the more data that is required to be in a block for your transaction, well, the higher the fee is going to be for you to get included into that block, depending on how much everyone else is willing to pay for that block. And so as you can see, they're colored here. So there's a bunch of green ones over here. Now look at this. Look at the fee rate. SAT per VB is 3.05. Fee rate 3.05. Fee rate 3.05. That's very, very low. But it takes up a lot of space. Okay, so even at 3 sats of VB, you know, it's $65, $61, $85. All right, so it's not cheap when you take up this much space. But then look at some of these little guys here. 12 cents. That one is just 9 cents. 9 cents. Because you have a one single little itty bitty transaction, one wallet address to one wallet address, or they call them UTXOs, unspent transactions, unspent transaction outputs. One UTXO to one output. You ain't paying for that. It's cheap as But you see how they're green? The sats per VB is very low. 3. When you hop over onto the orange, 27. Now let's go over to this like reddish orange, 151. Somebody, whoever it is that submitted that transaction to the mempool, they are saying, dear Mr. Miner, I absolutely have to have my transaction in the next block, and I will pay you 151 sats per VB to make sure that this transaction is in the next block and it doesn't get pushed back to the next one. It's definitely going to be in this block, not the next one, or not 6 blocks later or 10 blocks later. So that is how the miner, this is the job that the miners do. They are taking in the transactions, they're organizing them, and they're filling up the block space. The block space is limited. It's limited to, I think, 100 megabits, 100 megabytes. I think it's 100 megabytes. I might be wrong. I forget the number exactly, but it's a pretty small amount. It's a very, very small amount. The entire blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, for 13 years now is only like 500 gigs. You know, that's 13 years, one block every 10 minutes for 13 years. And it's only 500 gigs. You know, like they make thumb drives that are bigger than that. You know, they make thumb drives that are 2 terabytes now. And so it's like, it's really not a lot of data. But the reason why it's not a lot of data, 13 years worth of information is not a lot of data, is because these block sizes are limited. And I think it's 100 megabytes per block. So anyway, so as you can see, this is what happens. Now, this is the interesting part right here, is total fees. Okay, so right now the block subsidy, that is the reward that a miner earns just for solving the block, right now is 6.25 Bitcoin per block. In April of next year, there's going to be the halvening. This will be the 4th halvening of Bitcoin, or 5th halvening of Bitcoin, in which that block reward will get cut in half. So instead of 6.25 Bitcoin per block, Bitcoins per block, it'll be 3.125 Bitcoins per block. So this is what everybody's preparing for, because we all know what happened after the halvening, 90 to 180 days after the halvening. The price goes up. The price goes up because liquidity goes down. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. So then the question becomes, well, what happens in 2140 when the block subsidy is 0? Great question. I grappled with this a lot myself. It was not long ago that there was this thing called ordinals that came out. And ordinals was basically this sort of hacky way that some developers figured out how to implement NFTs into the Bitcoin blockchain. And, well, it was very controversial. I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, look, it's kind of dumb and pointless and useless in my opinion, but it did prove something. There was 1 or 2 blocks during this ordinal craze where everybody who was into the ordinals and wanting to make sure that their ordinals got solidified into a block were paying inordinate amounts of fees in order to do so. And there were 2 blocks. I think 2 blocks, maybe just one, and the second one was really close. But I think there were 2 blocks where the total fee, the mining, the mining fee, not the block subsidy, was higher than the block subsidy. I believe there were 2 blocks where one of them was like almost 7 Bitcoin, and then a second one that was like 6.5 Bitcoins. Just in mining fees, not for the block subsidy. So that means that for those 2 blocks, whoever solved it, that miner that solved it or that pool that solved it, they got the 6.25 Bitcoins block subsidy, and they got the 6 or 7 Bitcoins in network fees. Now, at the time, it was very difficult for everybody else. You know, like if you're one of these smaller guys over here that just wants to send 0.0000333 Bitcoins or 333 sats for 25 cents, you wouldn't have been able to get this transaction in because it wasn't 4 sats of VB, it was like 150 sats of VB or some other ridiculous number. I don't even remember exactly how high it was, but it was very, very high. So it crowded out a bunch of smaller transactions for a time. But then eventually, the miners worked through all the transactions, got everything into the blocks that everybody requested, and now we're back to 4, 7, 10 sats of VB, which is very, very affordable, very normal. So anyway, that answers the question. That should answer your question as to what's going to happen in 2140 when we get there, because the miners are still going to make mining fees, and in 2140, okay, Bitcoin went from $0 to $26,000 in 13 years. All right, 2140 is more than 100 years from now. What do you think the price of Bitcoin is going to be then? It's going to be a hell of a lot more than $100 million. All right, it's going to be a hell of a lot more. So even the most modest Bitcoin price, like this right here, 0.11 Bitcoins, that's going to be an F ton of money or value at the time, because I don't believe there will be fiat currency by then. I don't think that'll exist. It'll just be Bitcoin. That'll be a lot. That'll be worth a ton. That'll be worth a house, So the miners are still going to be able to make money. They're still going to be incentivized to mine away. This whole conundrum, this whole problem can be summarized as the security problem, as it has been recently explained to me. I always knew this was a concern or a problem. I just didn't have the answer or the explanation to it or the understanding of it until recently. But I recently learned that there's a name for this, and it's called the security problem. And so there's a bunch of people who are trying to change Bitcoin. They want to fix Bitcoin. They want to fork Bitcoin because they're afraid of what will happen at this time. But we already saw what happens. They're going to make, when Bitcoin goes up in price and goes up in demand, and it's the only true store of value out there, and it's the only true hard money out there, because all the cryptos have proven to just be toys at a toy store. Everybody's going to rush to Bitcoin. Everybody's going to figure it out, and they're going to put all their life savings into it. So they're going to see the value of a deflationary asset, or hard, just an absolutely hard scheduled money, where you can predict exactly what the inflation is and what the supply cap is. That's going to just drive the price up, and that's going to drive network activity up. So it is going to become expensive to operate on layer one on Bitcoin directly. It's going to become very expensive to include a transaction on there. But we've already got tons and tons of layer two solutions out there. We've got tons of them. Lightning is the most prominent one. It's, I believe, the most scalable one. It works. I've never had a problem with it. I've been using it consistently for over a year. Well, just under a year now. I've got my own BTC Pay server. Customers on my website can use it to pay me in Bitcoin or Lightning, and it works perfectly. I haven't had any problems yet. Not that anybody's buying anything from my store, but I've tested it and it works great. And that's just one. That's just the most developed one that we have currently. There's also tons of others. Liquid by BLOCKSTREAM, Cashew. There's Arc is on the way. There's a lot of development happening with Arc, although I don't believe it's public yet. But that's coming, I think. So tons of layer two solutions out there. And plus, by the way, what are you going to do? Wait for 10 minutes to buy a coffee? I mean, look how long we've been waiting on this block. It is this block, right, that we've been waiting on? I think so. Like, you're going to stand around and wait for your transaction to get included into a block for 10 minutes, 20 minutes to get a coffee? You know what I mean? That's not going to work. The layer one is for like houses, cars, rent, the larger utilities, the larger payments that you have to make on a regular basis. That's what the layer one's going to be for. The layer two stuff like Lightning, that's going to be for your coffee, your pizza, your beer. And but it is Bitcoin that you're dealing with. It's layer two. It is a protocol that had been built on top of Bitcoin to make transactions very rapid and also maintain security and finality, which are some of the most important features of Bitcoin. So I was really hoping that in the last few seconds there, while I was wrapping up my thoughts, that this block would get solved so that I could move on, or that we could look at it, after it's been solved. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to look at this block. So let's pretend this block gets solved, and they're like, boom, we found the hash that solves this block, and got 300 sats of VB. That's crazy. Oh, but look at that. This person is moving 30 Bitcoin, and it's only costing them $11.42 to move 30 Bitcoin. How much is that? Hold on. This is crazy. Where's Bitcoin? Oh, there it is. What was it? Was it 33? 30 Bitcoin. That person is moving $810,000 equivalent of Bitcoins, and it is only costing them $11.42, and they made the sats per VB so high that they are guaranteed to get into this block. And so they only have to wait 10 minutes or whenever this block gets solved for $11.42. Name a bank in the world that can do that. Name a bank in the world that can move $810,000 in 10 minutes for $11.42. Please let me know. If that is a thing, let me know. Let me know how in the world that happens and where and with whom. This is the beauty of Bitcoin. So anyway, let's say this block gets solved. So we're looking at that block now. So here it is. So here is the expected block. So this is what we were looking at when all the transactions were moving around. But then here's the actual block. So this is what actually got into the block, and these transactions are final, unless we have an orphan block, but that's for another video. So if you were one of these blocks here that did not end up in over here, then what that means is that you are still in the mempool. You're still in the pending block over here. You're still waiting to get added. So this happens sometimes. If you set the fee too low, like this guy right here, 4.10 sats of EB, probably not going to make it. Probably going to run out of space with all these transactions that are willing to pay, 27 sats of EB, 302 sats of VB, they're going to crowd you out. And then you're just going to keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until the network congestion is low enough that you get in there. So now let's say you submit a transaction and you submit, let's say you got fat thumbs and you accidentally hit 3 instead of hitting, 9 or something. And so you're just waiting for this transaction for an hour. Maybe you're waiting for a whole day and it just doesn't get in there. There's this really cool thing called RFB, replace by fee, or RBF, replace by fee, RBF. And what you can do is actually go into your transaction and just up the transaction fee to make sure the transaction gets pushed through in a timely manner. That's really cool that you can do that with Bitcoin. I'm not aware that you can do that with anything else. I don't think you can do that with Ethereum. Maybe you can, and I'm just not aware. But I learned that is a thing here in Bitcoin, which I thought is so cool. And in fact, I did that one time. I was moving some savings around, and I kind of thought, like, you know what, it doesn't need to happen right now, so I'll keep this fee really low, save some money on the fee. And, by the time I wake up in the morning tomorrow, it'll be through, right? And then I woke up in the morning, and it was not through. And it was still pending. And in fact, the average fee, the median fee, had only gone up and up and up and up. And so I was like, crap. Well, I don't want to wait that long. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to wait. So I did an RBF, replaced by fee, and I upped the sats per VB, and I got my transaction into the next few blocks or whatever. And I didn't end up paying that too much in network fees, so it was all good. But when the block does get solved, the cool thing you can see is who solved it. You can see the miner that solved it. So this is Ultimus Pool. So this is I don't know anything about Ultimus Pool, but looks like they've solved some blocks. So they must be a pretty big pool. So they've solved 2 blocks in less than 24 hours, 2 blocks in 24 hours. So they're on average 2 blocks a day, 2 blocks per 24-hour period. They got 3 here. 2. Oh wow, they had a good one here. They had 1, 2, 3, 4. They had 6 blocks in one day. That's crazy. And So anyway. So the company I work with, they mine on Foundry, and I just so happened to be watching this last night. I am that much of a nerd. And block 955 was Foundry. So my company mines with this pool. This is their pool. So as you can see, Foundry is huge. Foundry is solving blocks, every hour. They're a big one. So they got a large share of the hash rate. Big old fat share of the hash rate. And so anyway, this is the dashboard part, by the way. And as you can see, it's like the line right in between these two. I'm not selected here, and I'm not selected here either. And so this gives you kind of a dashboard. No priority, 2 sats per VB. Low priority, 6. Medium, 8. High, 12. So if you want to guarantee that your transaction is going to get into a block right now, you'd hit 12. 12 would probably do it. If you're really desperate, like got to be in there and can't take any chances, maybe you'd up this to 15 or 20. So this is the expected number of blocks, or time between blocks, 10.1. Here's a little graph of the number of incoming transactions. You can see how it spikes sometimes, like companies or projects or whatever come in sometimes and just submit thousands of transactions and kind of congest the network. And so this drives up the network fee, obviously. This part is really fascinating. This is the total number of memory usage of unconfirmed transactions. And what's so fascinating about this is it's 150,000 unconfirmed transactions that are sitting in the mempool. That is a ton of transactions. But what's interesting is during the ordinal craze, This number got up to 500,000. And now I normally see the number around 250 to 300,000. And right now it's down to 150,000. So that's really interesting. I'm curious to know if, if this is something that's going to change. Are they clearing out the mempool? Is this just a natural consequence of some of the push pull, supply demand on the network? What's going on there? I'm really curious to see if this number ever gets any lower than this, and what happens to that? Does that drive down the network fee? It would be interesting. So this block is still pending. This same exact block, we're still waiting on it. That's very interesting. I was really hoping to see it get finalized here in this video. So, I am actually going to shut up and wait until it does, and then I'll start talking again. There we go. The block finally got solved. All right, so let's go take a look at it. Ended up being on a median of 15 sats per VB, which is still pretty goddamn low. It's just so cheap. Let's see if our boy got into the block at 300 and whatever sats a VB. Oh, that was expected. What? 700 and... Oh, no, 50. Okay, sorry, 50 sats of VB. Okay, where's Home Sauce with the 300 sats of VB? Oh, man, did we lose him? Did we lose him? Did he get crowded out? What happened? 109. Wait, no. I'm looking at the wrong number. Oh, it's this guy, isn't it? Right here. Nope. Where's Mr. 30 Bitcoin? Where'd he go? There he is. 300 sats of VB, 30 Bitcoin. Okay, so let's go look at this transaction. So he's in the block. Now, if you notice this, it's one input, one UTXO that's getting spent. And it's got the mining fee up here. And then it's got two UTXOs. So he or she or they gave 0.03 Bitcoin. How much is that? Like $1,000. So anyway, they basically just gave a little shave of some of their 30 Bitcoin arsenal to somebody. The rest of it probably went right back into their own wallet, most likely. But we don't know for sure. It's a different address, but it could still be the same seed, same parent seed. So yeah, anyway, that's interesting. Whatever it was, they were like, I had better get this transaction in this block now. God damn it, I'm paying 300 sats. Overpaid 20x to ensure that this transaction got in the block. That's the beauty of supply and demand. That's the beauty of Bitcoin and this glorious thing that Satoshi created for us all. It works like a charm. Okay, anyway, I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about this now. So, so that's it, everybody. I am Kalen, your host of Corner Culture, Thoughts Off the Mainstream. Check out my store, COSATOSHI.shop, where you can get cool shirts and hoodies and like this with all these kind of cool designs like this. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. Even if you don't buy something, I'd really appreciate the feedback. Thanks for watching my channel, and hopefully my light will make it through next time so I don't look like a jittery AI ghost in the next video. All right, peace out.